Gents, I just want to pause the episode for a moment to let you know about the Strong Men of Value Academy. You will have heard me refer to it a number of times, and I want to bring more attention to it. So this isn't just a program, it's a life-changing environment and community of men who are focused on personal and professional growth. We're looking at areas of relationships, wealth, and health, things to help you thrive and maximize your life. Imagine having bi-monthly one-on-one coaching sessions with myself, weekly group coaching calls, and an incredible brotherhood of high achievers by your side. Now we're diving into resilience, leadership, and holistic growth to not just succeed in your career, but to thrive in your health and your relationships. Your journey to greatness, it starts here. So join the movement and you can apply for the Strong Men of Value Academy. You can head to themanthatcanproject.com to find out more.
Every time we get triggered, every time we're anxious, every time we get scared, every time we get hurt, and if there's no terrorist or, saber-toothed tiger right next to us, means that there's something within us that it's pointing out to that potentially needs to be healed.
The Man That Can Project podcast, a podcast empowering career-driven men to live more fulfilling lives. We are here to challenge your beliefs, redefine success, and talk about the important stuff in a relatable way. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. My name's Lachlan Stuart. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the Man That Can Project podcast, episode 510. Today, we have a very exciting guest where we'll be diving deep into the world of optimal health, longevity, and peak performance with none other than Dr. Vuu. So, Dr. Vuu is one of the most sought-after anti-aging physicians in America and around the world. And as the founder of the Vuu method, performance and longevity, Dr. Vuu advises a diverse clientele, including professional athletes, C-level executives, celebrities, and Fortune 500 organizations on achieving sustained wellness and peak performance. And today we're going to dive deep into the secrets behind achieving that Thrive state. You are also the author of the book Thrive State. So for those following along who want to dive deeper into this, grab yourself a copy from wherever you get your books from, because it's going to be action-packed. Now, you often mention the phrase, you are your best medicine. Can you elaborate on this and explain its significance in today's fast-paced world, please, Dr. Vuu?
Oh, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me. And I'm going to apologize to the audience right now. Every time I watch a movie, if they happen to have some sort of accent to the movie or some sort of character that has an accent, I'll leave the movie talking like that character for a while. And so I know you've got an Australian accent. So if I tend to just extend my vowels, you have to apologize. I'm not making fun of you. It's just one of these mirror neuron things I do. But to answer the question about you being your own best medicine, well, if we can let's consider what disease is and let's consider what performance is, right? We are this human body. Our human body is made from cells and they work together to form tissues. They work together to form organs. They work together to form our systems, and that make up who we are, all right? And so when we have disease, what is disease but these systems that have failed on us? A nervous system that has failed on us gives us dementia, Alzheimer's. And a cardiovascular system that has failed on us gives us atherosclerosis and heart disease. An immune system that fails on us, puts us prone to getting, infections or cancer. Now, these systems fail because you've got systems that fail probably because some organs have failed, some tissues have failed, and the cells have failed themselves. And on the flip side of that same coin, if you have an optimal cell leading to optimal tissues, leading to optimal organs, leading to optimal systems, you will have, as a result, optimal health, longevity, peak performance. Our highest human potential is if every single cell in our body is optimized. Now, what's the difference between an optimized and an unoptimized cells? Now, some people think, hey, it's the DNA, right? Because the DNA are all the instructions that we're given. So whatever our DNA is, so will our cells be. That actually is not true, right? So the fate of our cells, whether they are optimal or not optimal, whether we are in the thrive state or whether we're in the stress and survive state, actually is determined by the environment around those cells. So our DNA is listening moment to moment to the energy and the energetic cues around our cells, giving them instructions to either be optimal or not optimal. what are the things that most define that environment or that environment around ourselves, that energy? Well, yes, we can change it with peptides, supplements, things like that. Yes, there are these things far down the road that we should do. We look at where people live the longest, where the people are happiest, where they actually maintain peak performance. They don't have access to any of that. So what it is telling us is how we live our life actually is medicine. How we live our life, in particularly 7 areas, most determine the energy around our cells. And if we can control that message, we can determine whether or not we are in the thrive state where we don't have chronic disease, where we're energetic all the time, and we actually perform our best, or whether we're in the stress and survive state, which then actually puts us prone to chronic symptoms and also having chronic disease. This is why you are your
That is
medicine.
Phenomenal, and it makes so much sense as you were just sort of going down that path, and you're like, everything impacts who you become as an individual. There are definitely going to be individuals listening to this that go, it's not possible, mate, it's all your genetics. And I think we have that across the board with a lot of health conditions. But I personally am a big believer that everything in our life impacts things. In modern medicine, I guess, loves to focus on the symptoms and diagnosing that, but we never look at the environment. I've experienced it. And once again, this is not a generalization. This is just my experience from seeing, psychologists and professional health. They're very quick, or psychiatrists are very quick to want to go, okay, that's where you're at, but let's just get you on some medication. They've never asked what my lifestyle is like, how the relationships are going, whether I exercise, all of those sorts of things. And for me, it's like, can they potentially help if we do look at those? So you mentioned 7 steps or 7 areas. Could you dive into those areas? And then I'd love to, once we've gone through that, find out how you even got into this space in the first place.
You got it. So I want people to know this, that if you understand these 7 areas of your life, you could, and if you can honestly audit yourself in these 7 areas of your life, the chances of you ever needing a doctor to do more is very, very low. That because I feel so strongly that if people can optimize these 7 areas of your life, most things will do what we do best because our cells already know what to do. And that's to keep us alive. It's to have an immune system to protect us. So here are the 7 things. They are: number 1, sleep. 2 is nutrition. 3 is movement. 4 is monitoring our emotional state. We can get deep into that in a second. 5 is our mindsets, our thoughts, our beliefs. 6 is our social relationships, our community. And finally, it's purpose, or living with a sense of purpose. We can dive deep into those things a little bit more. Each one of these things I could do an entire podcast on, but that's basically what
they sound very simple when you're reading them out, but I could also imagine a lot of people don't do them. Why do you feel that people don't prioritize those things?
Yeah, well, so, I want people don't prioritize those things because they're probably not aware of a part of their nervous system and their brain that's holding them back from becoming their very best selves. However, modern science is teaching us a little bit more about our default mode network. It's a primitive part of our nervous system. Some people call this our subconscious, so to speak. And so at a very early age, our body learns what's safe, what's bad, what's good, what's love, all these things from friends, family, coaches, media, TV, all these things get downloaded into us. And here's the other thing, is it remembers our past traumas. So if we had drugs, divorce, abuse in the family, those are things that we get trauma from, but also smaller traumas like not being seen, not being heard, not being loved. Now, this nervous system wants to help keep us alive. And the thing is with this nervous system is it forgets one thing. It forgets that we are loved, that we are safe, and we are connected. So it's always looking for things that are not. And so as a young kid, potentially your parents won't even do it on purpose, but when they walk away from the room, they're like, oh my God, what did I do right now that made them walk away? And then so we start developing these adaptive behaviors of people pleasing, of thinking we need some success or something outside of ourselves. I need to be beautiful to be loved. And so we carry on this mask, and we're running this program of, I need to wear this mask to be accepted. And if we spend our entire lives in that space, in that ego space, this ego space is always going to pull us back. And, if we want to do something new or different, our brains come up with why we should not do those things because of these old subconscious programs. So why don't people do these things? They don't do these things because there's an old subconscious program that holds them back to whatever results they currently have. And the key to making change is, one, being aware of that default way of thinking, feeling, behaving, and acting. And if you could see that and go, oh man, I'm committed to this, you could start to make new choices and shift into the person you really
What about
really
an
are.
individual who goes, oh, it must be easy for you, Dr. V, because you work in the health and wellness space. You have time to do it. You study it. That's why it's okay for you to, I guess, one, be aware of what needs to change, but then actually implementing those 7 steps or 7 areas.
That's such a funny way of thinking about them. But I want to let people know this. Now, I was a medical doctor, got trained at the National Institute of Health, the Howard Hughes Medical Institute, UCLA, the best institutions ever. So yes, I would have all these tools, right? Well, 7 years ago, even with all that training, I was overweight, diabetic, had high blood pressure. I was on prescription medications, and I would have ended up in my own operating room table if I continued life that way. What I wasn't given was that I wasn't really given the tools, and I was never really taught that I was my best medicine. That what I was doing as that medical doctor was I was running this program of, I'm not enough, I need to succeed, I need to chase. And then the Dalai Lama has a quote that, I was living. He was asked, what he found most interesting about humanity. And he said, man, because he would sacrifice his health in order to make money and then sacrifice his money to recuperate his health. And I could speak for myself, but I could also speak to a bunch of colleagues trained in traditional medicine who are just not happy, just not healthy. And so that's one thing. But I mean, certainly there's lots of other things. Last year, I had a big financial blunder, brought somebody on in a company that just destroyed it. Lots of things that people were like, oh man, you're a doctor, you got all these things. And it's like, that's not the case. I've come to this realization, and I've recognized also that one of the biggest blunders and hurdles that has happened in my life has happened for me to grow from. And so, I got to say this, that, the time that inside, has felt the most emotionally free and me being the healthiest has nothing to do with what I have on the outside or what I do for a living or the things that I have. It's something that I've cultivated right here. And anyone can cultivate that right there. In fact, it's almost easier. Isn't there that Bible quote? It's easier for a rich man it's easier for a poor man to get to the kingdom of heaven than a rich man to get there through that. Anyway, I butchered that quote. You can see I don't read the Bible a lot, but I would probably say that sometimes people need to achieve some of those outward successes in order to realize that that's not it, and that potentially even holds you back from just the truest thing for us to all understand that we are love, we are connected, and to understand that you don't need to have a degree, you don't need to have time. You just have to be present with yourself and out of the old program.
As you're saying that, I'm thinking, like, even for myself, I am always striving for more, and I'm aware of, the importance of social connection, how quickly life goes, these areas to live a good life, and obviously working on yourself internally projects a better external world for you. But I still am challenged with that. So for yourself personally, you mentioned you had that setback last year, and then 7 years ago when you were overweight, had diabetes, all of those sorts of things. What did that journey look like for you to be able to, I guess, improve that relationship with yourself and shift that internal dialogue?
Yeah. Well, let's just talk about last year where, financially, I've never been, at a more low part in my life. In my entire life as an immigrant refugee coming to America with nothing, thinking that I need, a certain amount outside for me to feel good about myself. I was chasing that mode. And certainly I was very triggered when I lost basically everything. And every time we get triggered, every time we're anxious, every time we get scared, every time we get hurt, and if there's no terrorist or, saber-tooth tiger right next to us, means that there's something within us that it's pointing out to that potentially needs to be healed. For me, last year, it would be, okay, you need a certain amount of financial security to feel worthy of love and safe. And, I always talk about, one, being able to forgive, but two, really controlling your internal state no matter what's happening outside of you. So I wonder why that showed up for me. Because I think maybe the universe was like, wow, you really want to talk about forgiveness? You really want to talk about controlling your own state? Okay, prove it, tough guy. And so I was met with that, and I was triggered.
Yeah, definitely.
Certainly. But every single trigger we have is an opportunity. It's a gift. And we can let that thing continue to trigger us, or we can sit with it for a moment and go, why do I feel anxious? Why do I feel worried? Why am I triggered that way? Look back to the beliefs of what it's saying about you, and then start to question, where did that belief come from? What does, I need X to actually feel good about myself. Where did that come from? And then, is it really true? And eventually you'll peel back to those things and no, that's not true. That is potentially a rule you made up from a past trauma that happened very, very early on, that if you can let go of and know that whatever you think you need to feel a certain way, you're like, no, I can feel that now. And for many people, it's safety, love, and connection is the deepest thing behind what they thought, something on the outside.
Yeah, the safety, love, and connection is definitely something that resonates with me, and I'm sure resonates with a lot of people. When you talk about slowing down and asking ourselves these questions and sitting with that, it can, for a lot of people, and I know it was for me for a long time, be very uncomfortable. And it almost feels like I always feel like I'm unproductive when I'm doing that. It's like this inner work. I'm like, it's not making me more money. It's not helping me get closer towards my goal, when in fact it is. As you just mentioned, it's the work that has to happen in order to then allow us to improve everything else.
Yeah. And so just here's the things, that part of us that goes, oh my God, I'm going to beat myself up. I was not productive, X, Y, all that stuff. That's your default mode. That's the ego. That's that voice and program that's going on in your mind right now. So if you can start to see that and peel yourself away from that, you're like, oh my God, what is this thing in me that's making me go, go, go all the time? And I'm not saying we don't go achieve stuff, but live a life where you can enjoy and be inspired by what you do. Not a life where you feel like you're not enough and you need to chase this thing to make yourself feel better. There's a big difference of that. The goal, could be could be the exact same goal. Yes, but how you get to that goal, who you are as you approach that, makes a big difference in your biology. Because if you feel like you're not enough and you need to chase, and who you are is not good, basically you're coming from this empty place that's broken. And let me tell you, when you achieve quote unquote success or money from that empty space, that's just an amplifier of that pain. Whereas if you feel like you're worthy, that you're loved, that you're enough right now, and you're just inspired by doing something to help other people, as you step towards that thing, man, you can be able to help more people and more people. Energetically, it's a big difference. And energy is the biggest thing for people to recognize, how you feel, because how you feel is the energy, is the frequency that your cells are listening to. So if you're feeling stressed out, fuck, I got to do, all that stress, you're telling your cells there's a saber-tooth tiger around you, that you're running from it all day. And eventually you're going to burn out if you live that way.
You just put a story into my mind of there is a number of people I see around the gym, and one of them's the most enthusiastic individual. He's been going there for about 4 years, had an incredible transformation. Every time I ask how he's going in the gym, he's just so enthusiastic and so grateful to be able to actually exercise. And then there's a couple of other guys that come to mind where it's a slog. Every day is a grind. They don't appreciate the gym. It's just like, I've got to drag myself here. And I'm sure they don't enjoy the whole process. So looking at it like that, energetically, I'd much rather be the guy who's grateful and stoked to be in the gym, as opposed to the person who feels like it's such a effort. And that probably relates to all the instances in life, as you sort of mentioned there, Dr. V, the energy.
Yeah, certainly. And the parts, sometimes, I struggle with how to best reach men, to a certain degree, because I remember having the coaches that were just like super harsh on me or whatever. I think, you know, there's a, it is a motivating factor. And I know some people need that motivation and tell themselves that they're like crap to go do the thing. But I'm also like, why would you give yourself that message? Why would you even tell that smaller version, that default mode? Because look, at the end of the day, this primitive system does help us remember the things that have hurt us, right? So if you fell off a cliff before, you're going to pay more attention to that part of the cliff that you shouldn't step over anymore. We learn these things, and so yes, the default mode is this autopilot that goes on in our mind, but it's probably helped us for centuries. And to hate a part of us is sending your body the wrong message. Maybe thank it for being, kind of like, a younger child, or that little brother, that just doesn't know any better. But I believe now that, certainly as men, we were once children. Yes, we have a duty to provide and to protect, but we still need to be loved and nurtured. And so, know the responsibility to provide and protect, but also be able to say, hey, you know what? The cells in your body need to feel loved as well, because that's the driving force.
That's very well put. And I think about that a lot, because I've watched as my dad's gotten older and a lot of his mates have become older. They seem to have dropped their guard down. They don't seem to feel like they have to be as strong and tough as they once were. And I understand, phases of life happen, but I also ask myself, imagine what their life would have been like had they been able to do that earlier, when we were younger. As you said very well, Dr. V, so we still do need to be able to protect and provide, but we also need to have the vulnerability and to be able to let our guard down and actually feel things. It helps us, connect more and experience life in a completely different way. And I guess that dives into one of the areas of the social connection piece, coming off the back of, the last couple of years, and now with social media being huge. Obviously, people have access to so many people, yet more and more people than ever before feel like they're lonely. What would it look like to recognize that you are actually lonely, rather than just saying, look, I've got 10,000 followers, I've got 20 people that I catch up with weekly, but I still don't feel like I have my crew, so to speak.
True presence and connection happens when there's no agenda and you're actually there with the person that's here, right? If you find yourself stuck in your head, like if I always find myself next to you, Lachie, and what am I going to say next? Or what's he thinking? What's he wearing? Oh man, that shirt is terrible. He could use a shake. If you're constantly in your head, then it's telling you that this default mode is just processing what's going on, and you're not truly being present. And so social media, certainly, yes, it's a tool to reach out to people, but it's also something that the default mode can drop in and get a lot of dopamine hits, and you end up comparing yourself, and you're not truly connecting. And when do you know when you're truly connecting? When you're actually with someone, when you could feel that person, and when this part is quiet and you're just there and you're present. And so you could have tons of people around you, tons of followers and all these things, but you could still feel very lonely because you haven't shut this off and be really, truly present with someone. And when you can just let the magic of that moment of two people hanging out together and you're just flowing with information, that's what the body needs. That's when you have oxytocin released, which is a magical medicine for the body that's not only the love hormone, but actually lowers your blood pressure, improves digestion. We are meant to connect in that way. When this thing is on, when you're up in your head, your body is like, I am in danger and it's not safe. That's what happens when we're thinking too much. When we're just truly present, when we're ready to just be in the flow, that's what we're meant to do, is just flow off of each other. inspire each other and lift this energy. Not, okay, what do I need? How do I am appearing and all that? That's not connection. So this part needs to be turned off. Your heart needs to open. And that true connection, being present, truly present in that space, that's the connection we all need. That is not only good for health, it's good for our performance, and also helps humanity evolve and elevate as well.
Love to go back now, because we haven't really given people context of how you got to where you got to. Obviously, we spoke about 7 years ago, you were studying in the medical field, but you did become overweight and all of the stuff that happened there. But what made you jump into the medical field in the first place, and what was your upbringing to that point?
Yeah, well, I mean, I am Chinese, born in Vietnam. And, my parents were persecuted against as Chinese people in Vietnam. And during the Vietnam War, businesses were seized. We ended up escaping post-war Vietnam. I was on a refugee boat for 8 months, 3 months in a Philippine refugee camp. I was actually the only infantry to survive in that refugee boat. And so, then I grew up in America, where, our family didn't look the same. We didn't, my parents couldn't speak any English. And, during those formative years growing up as a kid, you just start to look at yourself and say, oh, who I am is not enough. It's not enough this. We're not rich enough. We're not white enough. We're not speaking English enough. All these things. And there was that part of me that just told myself, I need something outside of myself. I need to be more funny. I need to create this personality in order for me to achieve success. So I built a mask. Part of me wanted to do media and entertainment, but my parents were like, we travel around the world to give you an opportunity. What? And so, I ended up being a doctor, and, I let I need success in order to be loved drive my life. And so I was wearing this mask of the white coat. And basically a couple years into me being an attending doctor, buying the house of my dreams, driving the car of my dreams, I was also not very happy, overweight, diabetic, and all those things. And so life has a way of smacking you over the head when you live in that mask of not who you really are. And, the first couple of things I did to try to reverse it was just learn more about longevity and regenerative medicine. So I did an extra board certification in that specialty, reversed my conditions in a very short period of time. And then I worked with spiritual shamans, and I learned where people lived the longest. Like, wow, they didn't have access to any of this high-tech stuff. What's going on? So I started to study how living their life, how does living your life shift biology? So it's in fact how you choose to be. And then one of the last things we talked about in those 7 things was spirituality. Well, what is spirituality? What is purpose? Purpose is just really recognizing that you're not here for yourself. Your spirituality is just recognizing you are one piece of this entire organism that is humanity. You are a cell in this organism of humanity, that you're much, much bigger. And what you need to do is just be yourself and serve everybody in that. So like right now, my heart cell is not thinking, man, I'm going to live by myself, screw everybody else. No, it's doing its thing for this entire organism to survive. And if we could recognize that, and also recognize we're safe, we're love connected, that's the true medicine that actually quiets down this primitive ego part of us that thinks that we're just this meat suit, that's meant to get rich or whatever in this life. And if we can wake up to that, and if we can wake up to the beauty of life, we turn off the parts of us to think that we're not safe. And when we start to live that way, it's magic.
The spirituality component, it's one thing that I know a lot of men push back on, because it's like, perceived as woo-woo. 10 years ago, that was me. I'm definitely spiritual. I'm not like someone who has my crystals out and all of that sort of stuff, but I do believe in something bigger. I can't even articulate what it would be, because I just feel like I'm here for a bigger purpose, and everything that I do and the way that I can show up and the way that I interact with people matters. And for you, what do you feel are some ways that people can sort of start dipping their toe into that higher purpose outside themselves?
Yeah. Well, one, I would say being out in nature is great. Also, if you're like in the woods or you've got some grass, take your socks off, put your bare feet on the ground. At that point, you have free electrons from the earth just kind of comes in and like neutralizes some free radicals in your body. But when you're out in nature and you're not in a city, there's some magic there. Human beings have always had a strong connection with nature. And if you're just out there on your own, you'll just recognize, oh my God, the things that trigger you in your city or the things that trigger you when you're doing your routine things, you take that away. And then if you find yourself sort of in that space, you can do some breathing exercises, which I love. And I teach people how to go and do some breathing exercises where you could turn off the ego. If you go to thrivestatebreath.com, there's a couple free exercises there. But if you could turn that off and then go, what am I inspired by? What's making me feel good? How do I naturally want to be? If you can tap into those energies, your inspiration is sort of like the universe kind of, communicating with you and your DNA. And so if you could tap into things that just inspire you, that bring out your creativity, that bring out your joy, all those things, that's stepping more into that space. If you can just help somebody else, whatever it is, just pick up the phone or somebody random, help them. You're giving your body a very strong message when you help other people. When you help other people, you're telling your body, I'm safe. When you help other people, you're telling your body, look, I got enough. I'm abundant. I'm good. And what does that do? That's turning off the part of your brain that feels like it's not enough, that survival mode. So those are some very tangible ways. Is one, just get yourself out of the things that trigger you all the time, that's playing the same program. Breath work is a great source, and then certainly just helping other people will tap you back into
It's
that.
Awesome. And it's also, I guess you touched on again as well, working out what those stresses are. If you don't slow down to work out what the stresses are or what you're allowing to cause stress, you're never going to be able to remove yourself from those situations. So that's where what we spoke about in the beginning, slowing down, reflecting on things, then becomes more important again.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to go back, and you've mentioned 7 things, for some people that may be overwhelming. It's like, that's a lot of change at once. What would be your top 1 or 2 that you would recommend people start with first that would have the most significant change for them?
Yeah, well, number 1, get my book, thrivestatebook.com. No. Then you've got basically, then you know the system. What do you do next? Well, there's a book by James Clear called Atomic Habits. And how you make yourself change anything is, 1, create the easiest habit to adapt, this tiny atomic habit, and then do that. And so for everybody, it's going to be a little bit different. What would be easy for them? In my book, I basically say, hey, look, are these things that you're currently doing, what I call bioenergetic distractors, are they actually lowering your state and you want to get rid of them? Or are there some habits you want to install that actually elevate your state? So there's both of these things. And if you can consider what is going to be the easiest thing for you to do, maybe it's just doing an inventory of the food in your house. Because I'll tell you, look, if you're eating like crap, you're going to feel like crap. If you're feeling like crap, guess what signals you're giving to your cells, right? So it's going to be different for everybody. But whatever those things are, just choose the easiest thing first. And if you can turn that easy thing into a habit, you've changed the energetic state of your body. So guess what? The next change is going to be easier to do. And basically all life is just, adding on to these habits. And one of the things to know as you are, transforming yourself to be the best version of yourself, you recognize this, that, change at first is hard. Why? Because you are going, you're so used to, you've got the habit of being yourself. That's your current results right now. And 1, you've got to break that. So it's going to be hard at first. Then you're going to go, 2 to 3 weeks. Hey, you know what? I'm sleeping better. I'm going to the gym better or whatever. And then something happens and you you stop that habit. That's where most people stop. Most people think, oh, you know what? I tried for 2 weeks. I tried for 4 weeks. Screw it. I'm not that person. That's when to not do it, because here's the thing, for any change, for lasting change, you're going to go through that part where the messy is missing, and where the middle is messy, right? And if you know it's messy and you're like, you know what, this is what's supposed to happen, you just hop back on and you do your thing rather than, drop off, because that's where most people drop off, is they start to create stories of why they can't do this thing. But in the end, the transformation is beautiful. And it's always going to, it's going to be messy. Life is going to be messy. And so, one of the biggest, parts, to becoming the best version of ourselves is to be completely happy with where we are now, knowing that, there's always opportunities to grow. And that's why we're here. We're here to grow. We're here to grow. We're here to give. And that's the beautiful thing of the miraculous gift of life.
There's really no reason why people can't change them. From what I picked up from that is, you give them the framework. It's then up to them to work out which one they feel they would like to start with, or which is going to be the most the easiest one to adopt for themselves, and then they build off of that rather than saying you must start here, which some people do. And I think that for a lot of people, even for me, it's like, okay, well, I can do that. That fits my lifestyle. Let's see where we go. And it's, as Jim Rohn always talks about, it starts with an apple a day. Then you're probably going to wash that down with some water, and then you want to go get some sunlight. This whole process starts, which is very exciting.
Right.
What's next for you? What are you looking to do over the next couple of years, Dr. V? You've obviously got this incredible framework that is creating huge change for a lot of people out there. Where do you see yourself going over the next couple of years?
There was a child version of me that wanted to do media and entertainment, as a kid. And, my mom's like, you're not going to do that. First of all, you don't know any Kung Fu. Do you see back in the day, like the only Asian people that are there, they're making fun of you, or you better know some martial art. And I didn't know either. So, and there was sort of a desire to do so. And I didn't know what that was. And then I've always told myself, man, it's ego to want to be, on TV or media. But now, as I reflect back on life and I've shared, the messages of health, I'm really inspired by using the medium of entertainment and media, because I feel like, that's where people consume stuff. And if you could deliver messages of health, if you could give it, if you could deliver medicine in your message, you could probably help a lot of people. And so I think that's where, I've drawn, towards. And so, you'll find me doing keynotes at the hospital. There's going to be a Netflix show that I'll be in, launching in November. So stay tuned for that. Longevity documentaries coming out in 2024. So, I just look forward to being able to kind of like share, these nuggets and these wisdoms for the people who feel like.
It's also cool to see that obviously you're in such a credible position, but you're also then going, I do want to, I guess, diversify my career and get into something that's completely different. A lot of people, when we do hit that, what's it, the midlife crises or whatever, people go, I have hated my life up until this point. I don't know what I'm going to do, but they won't change because it's like, this is what I've always done. This is how people know me. This is how I know myself. I can't change. And you're already highly successful and have led the way, and you're still like, I can be more than that. I can still be this guy, but I can add this to, I guess, put this feather in my cap as well. So I think that's inspiring.
Well, thanks so much. And I have to let you know that even as I'm making this change, there's parts of me that go, oh my God, you're in your mid 40s now, and here you are doing this complete pivot, and you got all these young kids that have learned all these AI tools, doing all these different things. How do you compete? And then I realized, oh, okay, there's that part of me that's up here. And the more we can go from, this is a nice tool that we have, but the more we can draw from here to here, and be inspired by our life, that's where I think the most powerful medicine is.
So Dr. V, where can everyone find you? You have mentioned thrivestateBreath.com. Where else can people find your book, follow you on the socials and all of that stuff?
Yeah, we put together like a really awesome resource package of breathing, of ebooks and things like that. So they're just getting a bunch of ThriveState book. So thrivestateBreath.com. And then certainly, I'm all over social, YouTube at Dr. VMD. That's DOCTOR-VMD. And we'll occasionally answer some questions. So follow us on there. Those are the two biggest things. And there's a link tree on my Instagram account where you could, find out everything we're doing as well. So
awesome.
Check that out.
Yeah, and for everyone listening, that's how I came across Dr. Vuu. A few people that I follow were sharing your stuff, and then I checked out your stuff, and I was like, cool. I was sitting there, fingers crossed. I hope I get to have a yarn with Dr. Vuu. But Dr. Vuu, ladies and gentlemen, I'll have all the links in the show notes that you can go check out his stuff. Definitely grab the book and also give the resources a go. There's no reason why you can't start implementing these things because he's got the resources made readily available. You don't have to keep searching the internet. Just go to the website. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you, my friend. It's great to be on. And remember, you are your best medicine.
Thank you for listening to the Man That Can Project podcast. My name is Lachlan Stuart, and I hope you enjoyed this episode and found it helpful. If you did, please take a moment to rate and review the Man That Can Project on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with our newest episodes. We'll see you again next time.